Welcome to another episode of Love Not Fear. And I am delighted to have in this edition Dr. Jodi Wellman. Jodi, welcome.
I'm really excited to be here with you.
You wrote an interesting book that I was so thrilled that you immediately said yes to join the podcast because it is so immensely relevant to the topic we have.
Oh, okay. I'm glad to hear that.
Before we dive into that, let's paint a picture here. You are an author, you are a TEDx speaker, and you have an extremely funny Instagram account that, to my surprise, has nearly 50,000 followers. But now I know why, because a lot of the posts have a little pun in them. So check it out at 4000mondays.com. And now I gave it away. That's what we're going to talk about. In life, we only have 4,000 Mondays. And I guess the moment you found that out, from what I've read, is that your mother died at a really early age, 58, not having lived life to the max. I have quite a similar experience. My father died age 68 in my arms, and that was a pivotal moment because he worked all his life so hard. Wow. And his list of things to do in life was extremely long, and that made a change in me as an entrepreneur. I don't want to be burned out and then to find out that I have no more Mondays left. So to me, this topic is really relevant. And to the topic of love, not fear, is to live life to the fullest. That resonated with you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been here.
Right. I think we have a similar philosophy, and maybe my way of getting to it might be a little unconventional and for some seemingly morbid. But yes, if we can poke some fun at the reality of it all and use it as the motivator to live before we do it all, in fact, cash in our chips, then that feels like a success. And I'm sorry to hear about your dad. It sounds poignant, him dying in your arms, and also the lessons that he gave you unwittingly about, almost in some ways it's instructive about what not to do, right? Like the kind of life you don't want to live. So that can be really eye-opening.
So I ran some tests on life. I decided I will at least live to 87 in a pretty decent way. There's pretty good genes in the family. So that leaves me with about 1,800 Mondays, 1,750.
Okay. And when you do that math, and thanks for doing it, because that's exactly the number one thing I recommend. How did that number of Mondays, what does it make you think or feel?
Mixed emotions, roller coaster. On one hand, I said, oh, this is it. And then the other hand, I said, oh, it's pretty much, but I think they will be over if you don't live intentionally.
That's the perfect way to put it. Yeah.
And I recently met with a lady who's 103, who basically reinvented herself at age 89.
Okay.
And she added, so I did the math, she added about 1,300 extra Mondays on the life of an average person, just because she lives so purposefully and she has this strong message.
Yeah.
So that's also a topic. Maybe we dive in that a little bit later. Otherwise, we get right into the depth of the conversation. So what was pivotal for you?
Yeah. Well, I've always been interested in the notion that life is temporary, because I've always worked in the world of helping others, improvement, whether it was in the fitness field or in executive coaching, or this idea that we want to live really well. And I've studied well-being, positive psychology is my academic background. And then this bizarro idea that we're going to work really hard to hopefully love our lives, and then all of a sudden, snap your fingers, it's going to be gone. That absurd reality has always transfixed me. And you already hinted at it. That when my mom died, when she was 58, that was my early 30s, I was not impacted so much by how life could be short. It was more for me about how my perception was that my mom died with all these regrets. Not about the regrets of things she did, but regrets about the things she didn't do. She had so many dreams. She was so creative, had all these plans and short stories and manuscripts and drawings and things that she just didn't execute on. And it gripped me, because I could see that was my inclination also being creative and also having ideas, but also being a little bit afraid to execute on them, to risk failure or rejection. And so when I saw that and I was cleaning out her place, I remember it very distinctly to this day, cleaning out her desk and her laptop. It was like this, I call it the land of dormant intentions, how she had all these plans. Because on one hand, she was afraid. And on the other hand, she did that thing that most of us do, which is we convince ourselves quite willingly that, oh, I'll have time to do it later.
Yeah.
But we don't always have time later. Like sometimes the cord gets pulled. It's just, to me, I woke up in that moment and realized what a shame it would be to get to the end at whatever age and feel like we have these dreams that died with us. Doesn't that seem sad to you too?
Yeah. My memories go back to that moment, the cleaning out the office of my father. Yeah. I have never felt more tired, more empty than after doing that. It's
really?
It sucked every life out of me.
Oh,
Yeah.
You mentioned something.
For him, it was not so much as having so much to give. Still, I think he gave a lot. And by now, it was time to enjoy and receive and spend time with the grandkids. And that time didn't come.
So interesting. Yeah. I'm writing this down. I have a daily sticky note that I write my ideas down on. I'm writing this down because sometimes it's like you can give too much in the wrong ways versus not enough. Because I think we can suffer from either one or bits of both, depending. But like you said, it sounds like your dad was sort of an all work, no play, and that didn't make time for vitality or life, or didn't make time for himself. And in my case, my mom didn't really, like I said, execute on a lot of her plans, which felt also like a different brand of regret. Yeah.
So this podcast is listened. Most of our listeners are entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. So what message do you have for an entrepreneur? I mean, they are always like, okay, I gotta be able to live comfortably for the rest. But when you talk to them, and what they are putting off, not doing that rock climbing or not doing anything that needs a sort of a physical state. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of people reaching an age where they don't do those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've worked with entrepreneurs for years. I used to run a peer advisory board for owners of companies, and I am very, very fascinated by the unique entrepreneurial mind, because it's intoxicating when you have your own business, which in some way is a manifestation of a dream. Maybe the dream is a little bit old, but this is your passion. And the normal reaction to that is to devote so much of your time and energy to this. It's a baby, right? It's like to your child. Yep. And I think what we often see, of course, is that the lines get blurred between believing that, this is the totality of my life. Our identity gets wrapped up in the fact that I'm running this company and this is what I do. And I still do it on Saturdays and Sundays. And what are evenings? They're just more time to work potentially. And so I recognize that there's a distinct joy and fulfillment that comes out of running your business. And I'm not here to say that needs to be stopped. What I'm here to say and encourage, and I think you've had this conversation before, is doing that inward looking. And I call it a pre-mortem. About what about the many parts of your life are you maybe feeling, which is the risk of an entrepreneur or a hardworking leader really, is that our lives can become one-dimensional. And that can be fantastic for a series of years because you're just so fully focused with your blinders on growing the business, and it feels great, and achievement feels great, and growth feels great. And then at some point, though, many of us will realize, wait a minute, I feel like I'm living a cardboard cutout of a life. Like it looks really good from the front view, like, woohoo. And then all of a sudden, when you look at it on the side, you're like, no, not so many dimensions. And it feels a little bit empty in the way that you might say, oh gosh, what about fun and recreation? Having one great vacation a year. And even if you blow it up because maybe you have the resources, the means to do it, does that really define a well-rounded recreation and leisure life for you? What about family and friends? What about spirituality, if that matters to you? What about your health? What about learning and growing and acquiring new skills? All the areas where some of those things might resonate more with you than others. They don't all have to. They can't all possibly at the same time because you'll never get anything done. But the encouragement here is, are you living a well-rounded life that when you get to the end, you would feel proud versus the pang of regret like, oh, I think I maybe put all my eggs in one basket. And that basket was great. And I love those eggs,
Yeah.
especially, but could there have been more? And that's where we have the opportunity to work on that before our deathbed.
And do you have any tips on not to hit a stroke or a burnout first, to check in, to look in the
Totally.
mirror once in a while?
Oh, I do. First thing is to count your Mondays, as you have already done, and we hinted at it, because I think that our inclination is that we are going to take life for granted. We are wired to do it naturally. It's sort of a psychological process. We're just going to keep going through the motions. And when you're an entrepreneur, the motions are not hard to go by. Like there's always something happening and you're going to go, here's where it's that, are you then all of a sudden going blindly through your days? So counting your Mondays can help to snap you to attention. Like I know I have 1,753 as of today. And that helps me to say, oh, honey, let's put into priority and perspective. What's the stuff you think really matters? What projects do you want to work on? And which ones will take the back seat? So counting with temporal scarcity is what it's called in psychological science. Acknowledging that it's a limited time only situation. So I think that can be big. And one more thing is we've all heard of this before. And some of us have done this mental exercise of imagining that you are on your deathbed and the things that you might feel really proud of and the things you might regret.
Yeah.
And just like my mom, my witnessing of my mom passing and that her regrets were not about her mistakes, but about the opportunities she didn't take. Think about your deathbed. If it was tonight, hypothetically speaking, odds are it won't be tonight.
It is actually a part of the Love Not Fear course we have. This defining the North Star, and there's this eulogy exercise. I think it's great.
I do too. I love it. It's recognizing, because we have this real opportunity to reflect on what's happening now in what I call the pre-mortem, which can include this deathbed exercise, which is like, what would I regret not doing? And it can be the small stuff like, oh man, I always wanted to learn how to speak Italian, or I always wanted to go back to school and finish that degree, or I always wanted to start that new part of the business, or I always wanted to take my kids and do a family reunion tour of our homeland, or, you fill in the blanks. It could be a million things. Learn how to dance a certain dance, paint a painting. And if it really matters, you get to stop and say, well, wow, I'm not dead yet. And now I call them pre-grats because they are regrets in the making. They have not happened yet. And now you get a chance to say, do you want to register for that course today? Do you want to send out a save the date to your family for that event? Like you have an opportunity to course correct that regret. And I think that is what can make you feel really alive outside of the bounds of your business. And when you feel alive out there, you cannot not come in on your Monday and feel more energized and more raring to go at the business that you also love.
Yeah. So talking about this number, I two things popped in my head. It's also the way how to reach it. You may have 2,000 more Mondays, but if you're a chain smoker and not taking care of your health, or you're mortally obese, what are your ideas about those Mondays? You're being alive, but not being able to do what you actually want to do.
Yeah, now you're opening up a really important topic of quality versus quantity, because I think there is a whole other metric. So I say 4,000 Mondays because it's convenient and it's an average, and it varies by country, but gotta pick a number. And there is another whole school of science around, they call them in the UK the qualies, like your quality years. And the math is admittedly daunting, because we recognize that the choices you make today impact not just your lifestyle today, but of course your longevity, and not even necessarily your longevity, because you could live to be 87, but maybe those last 12 years are actually really uncomfortable, and that's the thing, is that the actual health expectancy, not life expectancy, but your health expectancy, your health span is all, you can Google that, lots of cool stuff out there on that. Your health span for many of us is actually drastically reduced. So the way I've calculated it in my last research is that I can really pseudo-confidently bank on me getting to like 68 as quality health years. After that, there may be things like, who knows what might flare up, right? You may, like rheumatoid arthritis might put a real dent in your plans to walk around the Coliseum. Or, maybe your eyesight is you won't be able to hear that nutcracker ballet that you've been dying to go to, literally dying, haha. And so recognizing that the end years are not all created equal. So if there's a weighted average in the way we want to live our life, the message just keeps getting to be the same thing, which is live now. Like, stop deferring life for later. I have to remind myself about this every day because it's my inclination also. I come by it naturally to just think, I'll get to that later. When work dies down, then I'm going to plan that neat excursion. Or maybe I'll do that when I retire. Well, that is all based on a tomorrow that may not come, but not even that. What about today? Like, don't we owe today the vitality and meaning that it deserves rather than punting life? It's
on the other side of the spectrum. There's people that are intensely into longevity and health freaks.
Yeah.
In my eyes, sometimes they're denying themselves those moments of joy or I'm having trouble with that. On the other hand, I think the future will bring us some amazing discoveries, and we can probably add maybe even tens of years to our lives. And you want to get there in a certain state.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be old and having denied everything.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. You know, there's a lot of research and there's a lot of philosophy that goes back. You know, the philosophy goes back thousands of years, but, you know, research being more current. And it's a funny thing, and this is going to sound supremely depressing, so just brace yourself, okay? I don't know if living longer is going to do a heck of a lot more for the human condition. Because evidence shows that we need to be reminded to live. Evidence shows that, actually, I think Nietzsche said that, like, man is the only animal who needs to be reminded to live. Or man is the only animal, we have one life, but we're always wondering, like, we always want another life, but we're barely living this life, you know, or the notions that we all say we're afraid of death, which really people looking to expand longevity, some people will say that that's an act of denial, that they're trying to, you know, become, it's called an immortality project in some circles of psychological science, especially existential psychology, which is where we're just pushing away the inevitable. Okay, fine. If you bump it out by 15 more years, I'm still going to ask you if that's helping you to savor life. Because maybe you get a few more trips in or a few more things, but here's the question, back to quality versus quantity again. We need a deadline in order to feel motivated typically. So most of us by nature, to some extent, we procrastinate, right? You may have, like, it's tax season right now in the US, and most people are leaving their taxes to the last day, which is, you know, tomorrow. Or yeah, you know, you have the, like, you need a deadline for a report at work or for a presentation. You're going to do it, you know, a few days before. Life is like that. And I'm not blaming us. I'm just acknowledging that that's why this whole thing works. And my whole belief in this 4,000 Mondays is, like, befriend the Grim Reaper and remember death is close, because then we live with more vitality, because we realize, oh, I gotta buckle down. Here's my concern, the unpopular concern. If we're bumping life out by, let's say, another 20 years, I just believe that that's 20 more years that we're going to delay living, potentially, right? And so, you know, it would be fun to try. Let's see if we can push it out, but are we really going to commit and not let fear get in the way? And make those brave choices to maybe move to that other country or start that different business or initiate the divorce or go and
one of my previous podcast guests was an entrepreneur a couple of years younger than myself who was diagnosed with a massive brain tumor. And they told him he had anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months to live.
Wow.
That was about 2 years ago, and he's still kicking it. But that was an amazing podcast. So what if your lifespan, if your number of Mondays, somebody tells you your number of Mondays is not 2,000, but it might be 20. That's it. What does that do? So that was an amazing episode.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. There's a new study that just came out too about how near-death experiences, how it impacts people's commitment, not just to life, but this one was specific to the workplace. Yeah. And all research has pointed to the same thing. And I will share, like, this is one of the chapters in my book, is how having a brush with death can be the ultimate gift and wake-up call. So, you know, I would assume that this gentleman that you met with is living with more intention because he realizes now what he has to lose with much more granularity. than the rest of us who admittedly, we just like, even me, I mean, this is what I do for a living and I count my Mondays religiously every Monday. And I still have that deluded notion, like, I've got time.
Yeah.
But, and I'm not suggesting that we try to rig a near-death experience. If we could do it safely, then that'd be cool. But it's a little risky, so don't do that. But do the imagination of thinking, what if I did have a really tough medical situation or an accident and I came home from the hospital? What would I be thinking today? Like, and I do this. This is part of my, philosophy is I'll look around. And I'm looking right now. I've got like a stupid thing I have to do. It's like something for a medical thing. I've got to-dos over here. And I'm looking at them right now and I'm thinking, if I almost died and I came home right now and I felt like, oh, this is all a gift, everything. This is like bonus time. This is my second chance at life. I already know right now. I'm like, yeah, that matters. I want to do that project. And then I'm looking right there like, no, you know what? That stupid PowerPoint doesn't matter. Like, I'm not even going to do that. Like, I don't need to respond to that. I don't need to call her back. Like, this is what matters and this is what doesn't. And I encourage us all to do that because these are the days of our lives. So let's pretend we almost didn't make it.
Yeah. So that's basically the whole message behind the choosing things you do out of love. Instead of fear. And the near-death experience, I've done a lot of reading on that topic as well. People deal with fear in a different way after having such an experience. So that has a lot to do. They have different priorities and sort of start living in a different way, more conscious, and also not being afraid of death. A lot of people that had a near-death experience are not afraid of death anymore.
Yeah. I love that. And the unfortunate truth is that 95% of us on this planet won't have that roar of awakening because it's a pretty rare thing. And so let's be conscious about thinking of that. Like, we have to play these little mental games with ourselves to get into the headspace of thinking, what if I did have a diagnosis? What if I was going through chemotherapy? What if I did emerge from the hospital with, in a wheelchair, but I was still alive after that accident? We have to play those games in order to really savor the stuff that we do take for granted.
It's 2025. We can create that experience with virtual reality in a pretty scary way. So this might be in a controlled environment. It might be interesting to run such experiments.
That's my dream, is to have there be an entire process where you are imagining medical events. I mean, I think a heart attack is super common. Having those events or the car accident, the moments where in emerging from the coma. I mean, I want anybody who's listening who happens to have this technology, come call me. We'll make a really cool experience. And I just think that would help elevate the up the game. But in the meantime, we could all still do it. Do the mortality math. Imagine you're at the end. And the thing though is recognizing like what you talk about all the time, right? It's choosing the right choice, like an empowering choice instead of the path of playing not to lose. And, I think.
Do you have any examples of people you have met that did make a pivotal change, although nothing serious, like a self-induced wake up moment?
Yeah.
And can we learn from that?
Yeah. Former client of mine, entrepreneur, ran a branding agency. And it was going well, like a 15-year-old business. And she kept toying with what to do, like knowing that she wanted to sell it. But the path of least resistance is to just keep going, right? Just keep acquiring clients, trying to make it work, dealing with the ins and outs of running the business, which, again, we can just sort of work in the business rather than on it. We can get caught up in the routines of things. And all of a sudden it's like, how did it get to be, April? Yeah. So at one point though, she had this little epiphany where her mom got sick and her mom got better, which is great. But it gave her this jolt that she needed this little existential threat. Yep. To say, wait a minute, what do I want out of my life? And she made the important choice to sell her business. She got for years she was stuck because she was like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to do. And, I, among other friends, were like, you don't have to know. There are other people who specialize in this. If you're waiting to figure out how to do it, you're going to wait until the day you die. Yeah. Find someone who helps you to sell the business. And she did. And she relocated. So in part of this whole like Operation Bravery, sold the business, moved to a different state where she knew it was more in line with, she wanted to see the mountains and all the things. She said, I don't regret not doing it sooner, because that's good. Like, let's not kick ourselves. We have to do everything in our own time. But she said, I'm so glad I didn't waste another day.
Yeah.
So she now is a mentor to people in her old field. So she's choosing to be generative and still help people and feel committed in this community online where she helps people in the marketing world. But she is very, very pleased about her upgraded life, where she said, I made the difficult choice, but also I feel so proud that I did it, that I walked away and then I made this really big move. So that takes courage.
It's interesting. The entrepreneurs, I'm an entrepreneur myself. I started out and I think I could do anything in the world. The idea is just to do it a little bit better than the rest in a certain field, and then you can make it. We kind of lose that over time. And we don't trust that ability anymore, that after we have sold our business, that we can make something of ourselves. So at a certain point, the identity of a person is so much intertwined with the business.
Oh, you're so right.
Yeah. I love how you write about constantly innovating. And I guess for me, what I started doing a whole bunch of stuff because life is short. I wanted to see where it would take me. And with this philosophy of not fear it, but what the heck, let's do it.
What the heck?
I started new things, but I see so many people not doing that, and that's the message.
Yeah, we come by it honestly because we adapt really well. It's called hedonic adaptation, where when things are good, like running your own business, you just kind of get used to the day-to-day, and then the day-to-day becomes a stifling, monotonous mess that we just feel we confuse as a comfort zone, because I know this is what I do. I do the accounting on this day. We've got the update meeting here, and we just we're going through the motions, which really means we're highly functional zombies, which is not flattering, right? Yeah. And so when you were saying something a minute ago, it reminded me of another entrepreneur who had a similar inkling like that, when you have that little, at first, sometimes it can be a whisper or like a little tap, and then sometimes it becomes like a real kick, usually in the butt, or it can manifest in sickness. I don't know how. The idea of like, I think I want more. Is this all there is? And so another entrepreneur I know realized, he said, I need to hire someone to run the business, a director of operations or even a CEO, depending on your structure. And he stayed involved because he was still super passionate about his business, but said, it's like, yes, and like, I also want to be able to take time and go to Tuscany, or to stop and spend time with my grandkid, and so that was a decision that he agonized over for many years, because it meant paying someone a significant sum and trusting them and developing. It's like, well, what's the trade-off? What, either that or you're going to feel stuck in what you're doing. And so he just sort of realized, I got to give it a try. Like, sometimes that's the ethos of life. It's like back to what am I waiting for? Give it a go. You bought the ticket, now get on the ride. It's like, give it a try. Even if the director of operations is a disaster, at least you may have used some of that time for a year to get up and out and do some things and learn some lessons. And then, you'll figure it out. That's what entrepreneurs are famous. We're resourceful. We'll figure it out. Yeah. We just have to give ourselves a fighting chance.
I think it was one of your books or another podcast I listened with you. You were speaking about totem poles. In your business, you create this totem pole, and you're very afraid to start at the bottom of a new one. And that resonated with me. And said, okay, what is it that really, if you want to be high in somewhere where you've seen it all, if you've been on a totem pole, the view is the same all the time.
That's beautiful. Yeah, isn't it so funny how like fear shows up in so many different ways, or the motivator behind it, but that it's often ego, right? I like the view I have from up here, and I don't like the idea of myself being seen as a learner again, or being seen as someone who's out of control and doesn't know. And that can be sometimes very beautifully humbling and beautifully enriching. Like, I'm not just saying this, go get a moment and, fall from grace to the bottom of the totem pole. I don't mean it in a punch your ego in the throat kind of way necessarily, but what about the richness of life? Like, what about the idea if there's a little tug or interest about, because many entrepreneurs are curious, it's a
Right.
common trait. Openness to experience is one of the big 5 personality traits. It's often that way for entrepreneurs. This innovative, like, how else could we do this? What about like, well, apply that to your life? Like, how else could I do this life? Do I want a new chapter? And for many, there's a desire, but a fear to go for it. So the desire is, I would love to go back to school and study what it would be like to do taxidermy. Or like for me right now, I want to go back to school and to become a sommelier. And it's totally different from what I do, but it's this desire. And I say, indulge it. Like, you don't need to burn all your bridges behind you, but go for it, because if life is short and our Mondays are dwindling, why would we give up on something that makes us curious? Why would we stop before we even begin? Why not say, I want to go back and be the person who's learning again. I know I'm going to learn quickly. I'm going to learn faster than I did when I was in my 20s or when I started this business in my 30s or whatnot, because I know the ropes of life. But let me be in a position with that beginner's mind. Let me be in a position where I can actually trust myself that I will figure it out again. And that leads typically to more of a sense of meaning in life and vitality.
Yeah. But okay, if you're very good at your business, your topic of expertise, and you try these new things. I heard you speak about being a sommelier. I did a wine course at a very high level, but I'm not super good at it, and I always feel a bit guilty if I try something new that I'm not up to par where you want to be with the best. What is that? Why can't we just enjoy it? Why? I was doing WSAT diploma course, which is that's academic level. Why the hell did I do that? What was the drive?
Yeah, I love what you're saying. You're highlighting a very common cultural norm and nuance, which is that we believe that when we do something, we have to be good at it, or we have to run from it, and we have to monetize it in some way. Like, even if it's just people taking an art class, it's hard to disentangle, especially from an entrepreneur. How do I, do I open up a studio? Like, how do I do this online? Like, how do I make, versus just going, and here's an assignment actually that I've recommended before to people: go do something you're bad at, take a class, and
I think a
continue
huge
to be
change
bad
for
at
a lot
it.
of people was COVID. Because we were forced to embrace other activities, be in other locations. I think the world really shifted, and of course it was a terrible time, but I think people got a glimpse of what other possibilities there are. So maybe many people are in better careers to suit them than before. So this little shakeup was not that bad for a lot of people.
Right. The shakeup is actually germane to our bigger conversation, is that no one would have asked for COVID, but because a lot of the times the rug was pulled out from under them, like maybe part of their career went quiet or ended and they had to find something new and they might be happier now. Some chose it because they were bored, right? Like, let me just try something because I've got nothing else to do on the weekend and I'll do this online thing. But the thing is that most people need some sort of an inciting event in order to make a change. And that is unfortunate about our humanity, is that we can be generally motivated, but we need a problem, or usually it's a negative thing, some kind, like it's the heart attack that makes you then have to go and exercise, right? It's the thing that is negative. And that is at the school of thought of what we're talking about here, which is, let's not deny the idea of our death. Let's not deny that the end is coming. And the Reaper, I don't think he's around the next corner, but like, he's out there. Pay attention to that negative aspect of life in order to actually motivate you to make the change that you've been longing to do anyways.
Yeah.
So we need this. Unfortunately, it needs to be a little bit of a kick in the pants.
What are your ideas about the topic of regret? At the end of your life, if you did too much, you can regret a certain lifestyle or certain choices. But to me, the regret of having put off certain things is way more scary for me.
Yeah, and you're so right. Research backs that up time and time again. There are regrets of omission and commission. And the commission are the mistakes we made, right? Like, we opened up that office in that city and that was a flop. But regrets of omission are, I wonder what it would have been like if I had, gone and moved into that town or taken that class or whatnot. And those are the things that do haunt us potentially even on our deathbeds, about what life could I have lived? And it also represents the gap between what we perceive to be our ideal selves and also just this run-of-the-mill person I woke up as today. Because
Mhm.
there's always that idea about the potential person you could have become.
Yeah.
So regrets are very powerful tools of reflection today. And that
Mhm.
is exactly back to that conversation of like, what would you regret if you were poof, gone tonight? I
Yeah.
write them down, write
Yeah.
every little thing down. Nothing's too small.
Yeah.
And like you regret that you didn't try a certain kind of Ethiopian food, write it down. And then you get to look at this whole list of stuff. And that list will grow because right now you can only think of so much. But then it's our job to prioritize. We know we can't do it all. Like I'm never going to get to all the countries I want to go to or try all the meals or do all the cool things. But it just gives us information and say, wow, if I would really be kicking myself for not reaching out, for example, to this opportunity to partner with this person with this business,
Mm.
just because I'm scared of what they're going to say and they're going to think I'm an idiot. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I get it. But that's my chance to say, wow, if that's the thing I would really feel upset with myself for because I just knew that I played small, maybe that's the thing I have to just muster up and do between now and the end of the day tomorrow.
So it's being aware
Yeah.
and writing them down,
Yeah.
small as can be. And where do you
Awareness,
stand on the point
intention,
to
and action.
push yourself, do hard things? I got a little sticker last week
Yeah.
and said, do the hard things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like it because, so I have this project on hand and I think about it a lot, but it's not doing it. So I think the emphasis is on the word do. Where would you stand on that?
Yeah, I like the idea of analyzing, going, am I an all talk, no action kind of person? And sometimes we have to talk about our dreams and socialize them for a while in order to get reactions or summon up a little bit of that like ooh, courage. Like it will help if you tell some friends about this project and they say, oh my gosh, that's an amazing idea. Or, oh, I can totally see you doing that. Or, oh, you could do X, Y, Z, or, even help you.
Yeah.
That I believe we know our own, we know like, I think I could talk about it maybe for 3 months, depending on what it is, right? Like my husband and I talked about moving to California from where we were in Chicago for, it was like a couple of years. Now, mind you, COVID got in the way, but we kind of did that thing. I was like, I don't want to live an all talk, no action kind of life. That's not who I want to be.
Yeah.
I'm doing that with enough things, around the business or whatnot. Let's make this move. And so we did. And it was one of those, is it easy? No. But therefore, because it's not easy, when you do it, you feel like a sense of satisfaction that you went out there and you gave it a try.
I see it with people that are in the comfort zone. They're comfortable, and the comfort zone basically robs them of experiences because they don't want to leave the comfort zone. And in my eyes, the comfort zone is a shrinking circle. You see it with elderly people. What they're comfortable with in this year is not the same as next year. And if you don't fight it, if you don't actively step out of that, or touch the border, it will get smaller. And that's what I tell myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I am very wary. I have a tendency to like the comfort zone. I like comfort. I like blankets. I like the couch. I like staying in. And then you have to go, wait, am I being stifled? I like your point about how it does very much narrow our lives. And I am a big fan of inducing novelty into our lives in the right dose. So it doesn't mean that you have to blow up your whole routine, especially if you have kids or, a life where you need some order. But sometimes it's the smallest things that make the biggest difference. And we underestimate that. Like, here's our routine about where, we take the same drive, drop off kids, or we go to the office and we take the same thing and I order the same salad and then I come home. And then what about taking a totally different route or intentionally trying a totally different thing to eat that's sort of mind blowing? Or what about you have a date night where you kind of do the same, version of a theme? What about completely changing it and going out to a drive-in? Are there still drive-in theaters? I don't know, but find one, make one, go and pack a really fun picnic box and go drive off to somewhere in a nature environment, which is so different from what you would do and sit and sip your wine on the park bench. Have just something that's different. And then you get to come home and say, ooh, we did a thing that was different.
Yeah. And even if it goes horrible wrong, you have a nice story.
Absolutely. It's fodder for laughter later.
couple of weeks ago, we went to a Moroccan restaurant and it was awful. They when we walked in, they asked us if we want to wear a Moroccan dress and a little fez, and there was music going on, and it was more like a show than it was actually having a Moroccan dinner. But my wife booked it, and I still have a lot of fun just joking at it about our special Moroccan night. I would have been just great Moroccan food. I would have forgotten about it in a year. This is a story for life. It was too crazy.
I love that. Yeah, the little snafus, that's the goodness. That's the gold that you get to laugh at later. So yeah.
Snafu, how do you call them?
A snafu, SNAFU, like a little, like a cock up, like I went wrong. Oops, like a screw, like not what you planned, but that night was so much better because of that, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I have plenty of stories like that. Yeah, so the comfort zone. Yeah, that's what. Do you have any recommendations how to check whether you're leaving that? I think on your website there's a nice test, right? If you go to 4000mondays.com. Is it still up?
Yeah, so it's the How Alive or Dead Are You quiz, and it helps to, you self-diagnose whether you're living wide with vitality or deep with meaning, because those are the two sort of spectrums that I see life through, and it's based on research and the well-being science. Okay. And then you can kind of fall in one of 5 categories, really, depending on whether you are positive on vitality and meaning or lacking in either one. And then that can help you to go, wait a minute. Like, for example, the most common zone that people find themselves in is called meaningfully bored, which is where they say, I've got enough meaning in my life. Like maybe as an entrepreneur, like I've got meaning. I employ people. I create a product for people or a service. Like there's meaning. It's good. But I'm not living enough. Like I'm bored. I need more interest in my life. I need more of those weird Moroccan restaurant nights. Like I need a little more fun and je ne sais quoi, something in my life. And so that
just as simple as the people stop growing or learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm a people person, but I cannot stand one type of person. That's people without passion. And I don't care what the passion is, but if you don't have that, find the passion, even if it's collecting trains. I don't care. Yeah,
absolutely. Some little, like that is an indication of a heartbeat, right? Something that like lights you up. And I do find that I'm the same. Like when someone else's passion or interest is just so different, I think that for most of us, that's cool. We want to find out more. Like, what is it about the train sets? It's funny. My mom used to be into train sets for a while.
Okay.
She got so into it that she took over the entire dining room table. It was crazy.
Coming back to entrepreneurs, have you seen cases where people fall in love with their own company again, just having a different view or helping them see some area where they can be revamped or where they can still pull it off one more time in a certain direction?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do work with groups and teams, for example, where one particular workshop is about legacy and passion. And so it's looking at what is the stuff that lights you up. And one little question there is like, you could just generically say, what's the thing that makes me feel most alive? And I do like to apply it, outside of the workspace and inside the workspace. So you mentioned like rock climbing, like someone might say, oh my gosh, when I'm doing that, I just love it. But inside work, it's like, wow, when I am brainstorming a new solution for a client, I lose track of time. It's the flow state. I love it. Okay. And so there's reacclimating with what it is that makes you feel alive and then determining how much are you doing that lately. So for example, with the brainstorming exercise, I work with people all the time where the thing they love to do in their business, they've organized and orchestrated the team so that they actually don't even get to do that anymore. And it's not on purpose, of course, but it's that, well, I'm the one doing all the accounting, or I'm the one that's working with the clients, but I really just miss rolling up my sleeves and getting into the spreadsheet. Or I'm doing all the spreadsheets, but I really just miss getting out there and meeting new clients. So tuning into what it is that lights you up and doing more of it is clearly crucial. But falling back in love and sparking a passion again for parts of the business, research is clear that when you identify what your strengths are and what your passion points are, when you use them and apply them in new and different ways, you're 17 times likelier to flourish. And that's a number we like. So let's try and do more of that. right?
Yeah.
And then the other piece, just back to like finding your passion and pursuing it and trying it in new ways. The other one is thinking about how you want to be remembered, and not just because you've died.
Yeah.
That's good to think of, not to die, but to think of. But what about if you sell the business at some point, or you know, retire and you're in it, but you move on, or you're no longer part of that specific team? How do you want to be remembered and described? That can drive your behavior today. And I think it can be shaping of, wait a minute, I want to be described as innovative. And then you stop and say, okay, great. So
Yeah.
to what extent do you think people would call you innovative today? If you sold the business and left tomorrow, would they say, wow, you know, Eduard, he was so creative, always coming up with new. You go, wait a minute, I haven't really done that lately because I've just been executing the play because it's been a pretty successful play. Wow, like I want to go back to work on Monday and maybe have a brainstorming meeting about new products. That's just one example, right? So I think it's tuning into, are you living the values that are really important to you so that it will leave a legacy? And if not, well, you're like most of us. Now all you get to do is refine it.
Yeah. It's so often to stay so common to not be able to have the room in your head if you just spend your hours in the business. So I recently stepped out for 1 week of vacation and 1 week of a conference, and that not only physically, but it gave so much space in my head to really be passionate about some things that were lingering, but I've pushed away due to lack of time. And it's also very scary. Now I'm 1 week, I'm back, and how work is piling up again. So that's, yeah, that's the old,
It's a given.
new there.
Yeah.
But it's funny, for me, a year ago, I became a B Corp. It took, I don't know if you know what that means. Business is a source for good. It was a long process, but in that process, I really liked it to reinvent the business, but also the whole company had to change, and conversations were sparking up left and right about, hey, now that we are a B Corp, is this what we do, or what choices do we make?
Yeah.
So that's so even something bigger than yourself
Yeah.
is true. Maybe this is not the moral ground. I think it's just common sense to do it in a different way. To change that was really helpful. And I can really advise anybody who wants to learn more, go to bcorp.net and think about it, because it's so much more than just than a new identity. It's really reinventing the whole company.
Congratulations for getting that designation. That's big.
Yeah. Now it helps me to engage certain types of discussions with the clients I need, because I'm in the lighting business. We make nice lighting designs, but in the end, I don't make the stuff, so I don't want to be talking about the actual fixtures, how to create light. I don't think that's interesting. Light is interesting, not the fixtures. So, on a side note,
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. Let me check, because I wrote down a couple of things. Make sure that I checked everything. Yeah. Tell me about your work as a coach. What's your ideal client look like, and what is it that you would like to change in them, in what time frame?
Oh, great question. You know, I used to do one-on-one coaching. I did it for about 12 years. And at the time, it was mostly executive coaching, and then for leaders. And then it evolved over time when I was starting 4,000 Mondays. And while I do not coach one-on-one anymore, I do it with groups. So with individuals, it was typically about helping people break through and overcome so much of what you talk about, the fear that holds us back in order to live the life that they've dreamt of. And now in the work I do, where it's mostly through keynotes and workshops, working with a group or a team, it is about helping people spark the vitality again that makes them happier in their lives and their work. And in a lot of cases, the belief I have about work is this. I think leaders feel a sense, and entrepreneurs, right, owning companies, et cetera, have this sense of pressure that in order to keep good people, retain and keep people engaged, that we now somehow have to make work this source of all the joy and all the meaning in life. Because otherwise, a lot of generations at work think like my work needs to fill me up. And that needs to be the place I go to find meaning and purpose in life. And it needs to be cool and fun. And I think leaders are struggling because you're just trying to make the quarter numbers and figure all this stuff out. You're like, how do I keep now it's my job to make people feel engaged and happy in their lives. And this is where I think is really, really beautiful, is that by having a group meeting and conversation and understanding where people are energized, where they are de-energized, in and out of work. And I'm going to just zone in to counterintuitively on out of work, is that many people, especially depending on the phase of a business, but it could also just be based on the speed of the leader, being the speed of the pack. Like you could have just like a startup kind of business where it's go, go, go. And there's not a lot of time necessarily for extracurriculars, but whether it's that or not, getting curious about people's extracurricular interests and their leisure and their vacation time and the things that light them up, so that it is maybe trying a different hobby, taking a class in something that they're not good at, having fun. The more that people are exploring life outside of work, research is just overwhelmingly clear that when they come into work, being a more vibrant, well-rounded person, they're going to come to work with more energy and creativity and a desire to, quite frankly, come in and think it's okay that work is not perfect. It's okay that my work right now isn't making me feel like I'm changing the world, because you know why? On Saturday, I went and I read to kids at the local library, and that gave me a sense of meaning. So now I don't have a disproportionate sense that work has to somehow be everything for me. So it's kind of a funny approach to work. Like usually the school of thought, and I used to consult with companies again for more than a decade. And it was always about, of course, how to help people see that what they're doing matters and helping to build engagement in work, of course. But I don't think that's really the long-term answer. I think a lot of it is help people be well-rounded, take the pressure off work as this perfect place. Yeah. And then next thing you know, you've got a team that's really engaged and they're holding each other accountable to, hey, did you book that trip to, Thailand yet? Or did you register for the tennis classes? How was tennis this weekend? Like that is what sparks aliveness. And it's so great to see when teams actually kind of get this rhythm right.
It's actually very close to the topic, because David Hensel, my co-host in this, we really believe that if the people in the company are doing things out of love and not out of fear, the work is so much more productive and so much better. Yeah. So David had an example about somebody who we asked to write a newsletter. Mm-hmm. And the newsletter was, it had the right stuff in it. And they said, write it again as though nobody would read it and what you think matters. And that was a super beautiful newsletter. And that was the kind of message you want. So it's creating a culture where the behavior when you're not watching is exactly the same as when you are watching. So that's,
powerful.
Yeah. I'm not going to take up more of your time. I promised to be quite brief. So thank you very much, Jodi. I really enjoyed it. And you can imagine the listening, finding your work. I was dying to get you to talk about this, and we didn't tap into fear that much, but I guess showing the other side, being aware of what is going on in your life and living intentionally. This is what the whole podcast is about.
Oh, I hear you. I've loved talking with you. I see it as, Jermaine, as like, don't be afraid to live, right? Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
And listeners, please watch the other episodes. We're on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, everywhere. If you have any questions or any suggestions for guests, please reach out, and see you at the next one. Outro music, blah, blah, blah. Okay, thanks. That was really cool, Jodi.
Oh, what a good time chatting with you. And I love your...
I felt 3 times you saw right through me.
What do you mean?
Okay, 1, I had a failed business in Singapore for 4 years, but I don't regret. So yes, I did that, and it failed, but I don't regret that. Okay. You were saying that maybe I want to be a sommelier. I didn't want to be a sommelier, but I did the wine course up to a level that's... I was studying how many hectoliters in one obscure area in Italy. So what am I doing? So I killed my love for wine by overstepping it, going too far in that. So that's another thing. Oh. And I've been reinventing myself all the time. I mean, doing this podcast is, hey, what the heck? I don't care if nobody listens, and yeah, it's cool. And now I turned these podcasts into some of them are posted as blogs in for entrepreneurs organization. There's 19,000 members, so that's quite nice. That's fun, and I never spoke on a stage. So 3 years ago, I accepted an invitation to speak in Cape Town at Stellenbosch University. Well, I didn't want to have a story like, "Hey, I'm an entrepreneur and blah. Look what I did." So I said I listed all my failures, which was yeah,
I love that.
yeah. It was the freak show for failures. Do you still want to be an entrepreneur? Okay. Yeah, that's
Right.
cool.
Look how fun
Yeah,
this is. Yeah.
yeah.
I love it. Oh, wow. I love the coincidences and seeing through you. That is funny. And also funny that you said that studying wine killed your love for it. You got to be careful, right? Sometimes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's only after a couple of I think only since a few years that I'm okay with trying something and then letting it go again. Because normally I would say, hey, you invested time in this and that, and you should at least do this. I'm okay with setting something up and having a little fun and play with it. And I think it's little steps that build on each other, and it will reach you to higher levels. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, I'm so glad that we had this chance to chat, and I'll look forward to sharing it when it comes out and to staying connected.
Let me know when you're in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I am a passionate leader in entrepreneurs organization, but especially in Europe.
Oh.
There's 24 chapters of EO.
Yep.
We're always looking for speakers, and so if let's say you have a gig in Milan.
Yeah.
I can probably get you a gig on either the same day or the next day if there's a chapter around. And we love these kinds of topics, so that would be really cool.
Oh, love that. Well, I will absolutely. I'm dying to get back to Europe soon, so I will absolutely reach out for that.
Let me know, and I'll tell you whether there's a chapter in the summer. Normally, nothing happens mid-June to maybe early September.
Yeah.
Then the whole community is not doing anything.
Yeah.
But other than that, this would be really nice. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful.
Have you heard of Keith Roberts with his the Oak Journal?
No.
Okay, he's a guy who was it's not the same message, but he put it into a workbook to live intentionally, and like make first a 90-day step and then a year step to change things.
Wow, I love that.
I mean, it's a rabbit hole. If you look into these things, we could have spoken about Die with Zero. It's also a nice book. I mean, what are we entrepreneurs so worked up about making a lot of money for what?
Yeah,
you cannot take it with you. And,
right.
And are the experience so much less if you do it with half the budget? No, probably not. So
well said. Oh, I love that so much. Oh, well, I'm going to look up Book Journal. Thank you. And do you need, by the way, I can see that it's still recording. Do you need to stop it? Because I know I can't click off until it's uploaded.
No, I have to, but they will click it and they do the sound, and that's okay.
Okay. Well, it's such a pleasure to have met, and I look forward to staying connected.
Thank you. And I love the fact that you responded like in 50 minutes. For me, it was kind of a long shot, but then you said, no, immediately did it. I was having a walk in Hawaii with somebody who's close to Dr. Joe Dispenza. So now I wrote a mail to Dr. Joe Dispenza and see if he will hop on. Who knows? I never know. I might get a yes.
You know what? Absolutely. That's one thing I keep teaching myself. It's like, well, you don't ask, you don't get, but sometimes it happens. I love that. Yeah.
Okay.
Love it.
Yeah.
Enjoy your week. Happy Monday.
And one conversation I would really like to have more on a personal note. So I met this lady, 103, right? Mm-hmm. She's the oldest living Holocaust survivor. She's an honorary citizen of Berlin. I met her twice. I interviewed her, and I met her a couple of weeks ago. Wow. She might not, a friend of mine is with her right now. She might not have one more Monday. That's how bad she is. She's not eating and drinking anymore, and she's on a respirator. But she moved back to Germany after her husband died at 89. After so her husband died when she was 79, and then there was a big void in her life. Yeah. And then she took a community writing course, and she wrote what it was like to be an adult in Berlin, getting caught in 1944, having to go to Theresienstadt, meeting with the men, and having lived all that, and then she fled to New York. And she met with another prisoner, and basically the way to cope was not to talk about it. So they shoved it under the grass. And when her husband died, she wrote this, and somebody recognized it. Like, whoa, this is major stuff. And now, so Germany heard about it. They flew her back to see, to experience the country as it is. She moved another couple of times back, and they gave her a house in Berlin. And she's honorary citizen, and she's really, really very famous in Germany. But I am sure having this purpose, because at age what was it, 89, she started traveling the country by train with a little bag of books. She wrote one book, and she would go to schools to tell about her story and to write these books. That's how she got to 103. I'm pretty sure. And I see it with my mom, who's the same age as my mother-in-law. My mom lives in a community where she has interactions every day. She takes art classes 3 times per week. She goes see every movie because she has a movie cinema next door, and she has a subscription. And my mother-in-law, she lives in an apartment building on the top floor. Yeah. She doesn't meet anybody, and she's going. So purpose and longevity. Yeah. I am 100% sure you can add a decade in your life with having purpose and basically having human contact. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that's why I asked about the number of Mondays. How? Because I don't care about these last 500 Mondays if they suck.
I'm with you. Yeah, I love that quality. Oh, I'm inspired.
Keep that in mind. So maybe look her up. Her name is Margot Friedlander.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure she will not live another year. Okay. But you can have it as an amazing example because she has not been written about that much outside of Europe. Okay. Fun thing. She during the war she was already 21. She didn't live through it as a kid. Imagine talking about the war with an adult. She was in the Olympic Stadium in 1936 with Hitler. The one that what was it? The Jesse Owens didn't get didn't get the medal. She was in the freaking stadium. She's still alive. There's people on the street that can tell the story. She's the last one.
Yeah. That's crazy. Motivating. I will look her up. I love that. And pleasure meeting. Enjoy your week.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye-bye.